Okay. So these first two with the template URL and System.js support are not only needed for people if they want to use System.js instead of Webpack, um, but currently it's needed to use the CLI. So a different item further down, I'm working with Johannes on the CLI support. So even without having this item, we can do the scaffold. This isn't stopping the scaffolding. So Johannes has been able to make some progress on just when you use the CLI. This isn't checked in, but like at least the way he's setting it up right now is basically with the new Angular CLI. If you just do ng, I forgot what it is, like build or something like that, and dash dash universal, then it will actually include all of the hooks and everything you need, all the dependencies, everything in order to run a universal app. The two things there is that, like I said, we do need System.js support, System.js working regardless, but potentially it might not be an issue with the CLI if they're thinking about moving from System.js underneath the scenes to Webpack anyways. So we'll see what happens there. But in any case, whenever Patrick joins, we could talk about, or afterwards, we'll sync up and talk on the Slack channel about how far out these two are. Then these next 5 items, I actually just saw this morning. I've been busy doing a couple other things, so I haven't been keeping close watch, but at least 3 of them, from what I could see, were based off of the 433, 430, and 428 are all somewhat similar, related to build errors. And for that as well, we need Patrick to give a little bit of an update, because I believe with his last check-in, there were a couple potential issues, and then actually one of these is building on Windows, which I have never done before. So I'm not, wouldn't be surprised if there was some problems on Windows that we have to fix. So basically, with all of these items, there's going to be some more investigation, and we'll see what the deal is. And then I believe that Mark was working on this one. Yeah. So Mark isn't on the line, is he? Nope. All right. I'll sync back with Mark. Let me see if he wrote anything in. Okay, actually, cool. It looks like he submitted a PR. Yes. Okay, great. Perfect. Okay. So for this particular issue with, we're replacing the Parse5 adapter. I mean, just in general, with this, as an FYI, during the initial version of Universal and Preboot, we did include, just whatever to get it working. But now, as we're starting to streamline stuff, it's beneficial to not have as many downstream dependencies. So this is one of the ones where we had to make some updates anyways. So now we'll be able to remove the Parse5 adapter completely, and that should help out. Let's see here. Okay, I'm going to skip over some of these. So for 410, the new router, I mentioned this the last time, but we're sort of waiting on the sidelines here a little bit, because I don't know if you guys have seen, but there's been a lot of changes with the router, both not just the one that's published right now. They're actually, so they started off, the router during alpha was missing a whole bunch of stuff. They published a new one that they talked about during ngconf, and that still had like a couple issues. Meanwhile, Rob Wormold and the NGRX team had come up with a router for NGRX that people sort of liked, and also in the meantime, Chris Thielen finally got UI router working with Angular 2. So basically within the past like 2 weeks or couple weeks, they've done another refactor of the router, and so they're about to, if they haven't already, I haven't checked, they're about to release, I guess this is version 3 of the built-in Angular router for Angular 2, which is supposed to combine like the best of all worlds type of thing. So yeah, I mean, once that's published and out there, then for this item, we'll certainly, there's going to be work to make sure it works on the server side. 409, actually, the JSONP thing I think is not fixed. Yeah, it is. Yep. So that one is, we fixed that earlier. Okay, so pre-boot. So there's actually a couple different items here. Pre-boot inline. Oh, actually, well, one-off thing. I think, John, you were working on the inline stuff for pre-boot, right?
Correct. I'm working on that one.
Okay, so outside that one, John finished the multi-app support. I still didn't publish it though, and basically what that means is that for most apps, when on the web page, on the server side page that's coming back, they just have one app that they're bootstrapping. But there are several people, and there are different use cases where you actually want to have multiple apps on the page. And the Angular supports that. So Angular allows you to bootstrap multiple apps on the same page. But on the server side, there were some issues with it, specifically related to some of the pre-boot stuff. But with John's work, that is working now, except I didn't publish it yet because there's some additional refactoring that I'm in the middle of right now, where basically I am trying to get the size down. Well, there's kind of a couple things. I'm trying to get the size down to 2K. So the pre-boot's going to be inlined. That's was always the plan, so that it could start recording events right away. But the size is like right now like 30K or something like that. It's way too big. So with these changes, like I think I have, yeah, I think I'm almost there. I gotta check again, but it's like right now it's like maybe 3 or 4K, and I still have some wiggle room to get it down even further. And then the way it's going to work is that the reason I was able to get it down so small is because I removed everything except for the inline part. It's literally just the recording piece, a couple other things, but mostly just the recording events piece, that it stores on a global object in the window all of the events. And then there's a second piece, a client-side piece for pre-boot that Angular can talk to directly, call out to, and that just essentially grabs that global object that has all the events, and then it runs through all the rest of the pre-boot code, like all the replaying and buffering and everything like that. So it's looking pretty good. I probably need another couple days on it. I'm expecting middle of next week, probably. So there were some, I noticed some of the people who had build errors, some of them were pre-boot related, which this will definitely fix, but I'll have to see whether there's a quicker fix for some of the build errors, these first five up here. There was one I saw that it was like a pre-boot related thing. So I'll look at that as a short-term, if there's a short-term change we can make, since it's going to still take me a couple more days on the bigger refactor.
Hey Jeff, this is Jeff. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Quick question: are you running on Aussie one?
Am I running on? Say that again.
Are you building off of Aussie one?
Aussie one?
The Angular Aussie one, the release candidate.
Oh, RC one. RC. Hi. Yes.
Okay.
What were you going to ask about that?
I was going to ask, we were trying to bundle using system build static bundle, and we're having issue trying to bundle with RC1.
Like from with Universal in particular, or just with Angular 2, you're having
It's
issues?
with Angular 2 in general using.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, you're using like JSPM, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. I did see an issue with that. Do you look in the Angular core
Yeah, I think
issues?
other people having the same issues too. So
Yeah, I haven't tried it out with JSPM. That's why I've just been using Webpack. But I do know that I've heard other people who are having problems. So hopefully that'll be resolved soon.
okay.
But is it something that it was working before for you and then it just stopped?
No, we haven't tried it because it before with beta it came with the bundling, the bundle.
Oh, right. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Okay. Yeah, so one thing you can do, especially like you've talked to Rob Wormold before, right?
Yeah, And
So,
I
so
think I just got an
he,
email from Jewel yesterday too. They say just hold up.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, they're the two best ones to talk to about that. So yeah, if you've already in contact with them, like they're the ones who are gonna
Yeah.
move that along the most.
Just see if you're running RC1. I just want to see if you have the same problem.
Yeah. No, I didn't. Not encountering that because I'm on the Webpack side of things.
Okay.
Okay. For 395. Wait a second. Oh yeah, I thought we fixed that. Sorry, let me just do some cleanup on my spreadsheet. And then, I mean, I'm not going to go through the whole list. The only other thing I mentioned of note is that a number of people have kind of continued to ask, like after these. So the way I view things, and just like part of this meeting, I want people to get a sense of like what work is being done, what outstanding issues there are. So, I mean, there's always going to be tons of features and that type of thing, but the important thing, I guess, if I had to boil it down to like the high level of what's going on, there are a couple key blockers that are like our main focus right now with System.js support and the template URL thing, a couple other ones. There are a couple from the latest release, looks like a couple errors that we're trying to fix. I think those will be cleared up in the next day or so once Patrick and I get a chance to talk about it a little bit more. But then, and then the preboot thing I mentioned. But then the I could boil down like all these other ones really down to two important things. So the two important things to know are one, there is a strong need. It gets stronger the more people that use Universal to have this layer of services on top of Universal. So Universal obviously is doing the actual renderer itself and facilitating the transfer from the client view to the server view. But then when you're building Universal apps, there's all sorts of stuff you need, like access to the head of the document and doing all the SEO stuff to set canonical URLs and redirects and whatever. So you can do all that now by yourself, but once we clear up these like priority one issues, the next thing on our list for Patrick and I is focusing on essentially building out a suite of services and utilities that everybody will use to just make it easier to build, like stuff that you need on the server side. In the meantime, I know that a lot of you guys are coming up with this. So actually, one thing that might be good, now that I'm thinking about this some more, is it might be good just to do a shared coding session for this type of thing. Because the problem is that whenever this comes up, I keep on saying that we're going to eventually like document like how you guys can do it, and I try to give people direction, but it's been hard to find time to actually document stuff. So what I would say, let me just make a note for myself, and I think it might be a good idea to basically set up a separate meeting just going over common recipes. So like I think the way I'm thinking about it is that Patrick and I will just have some things pre-planned, but then we can also field questions and of like things people are running into, and then we could just show the code and like kind of work it out, almost like an interactive tutorial type thing. Would you guys be interested in that type of thing?
I'd be very interested in that, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, maybe I'll see if I can even set it up for this time next week. I'll see. We'll talk on the chat about that on the channel, on the Slack channel. Okay. For the other thing I was going to mention is performance and scalability stuff. So I was talking to one person earlier about that they're trying to actually get this set up on their like production server now. And the thing I gave them the warning about is that like I've been like not to the point, like for my own purposes, before we release at Get Human this in production, I have planned in part of the universal plan anyways, is to do all sorts of performance optimization and you know, memory profiling and everything like that, which just hasn't been done yet. So the point there is that as you guys start to do any sort of load testing, if anyone gets to that, I almost guarantee that there'll be some things that you run into. Like I have an existing server rendering solution for Angular 1. It's like a customized thing that I built that I think for the first like 3 months we were going through heavy duty refactoring just based off of performance and scalability stuff, just because on the server side the profiling is so much different than on the client side. So even though on the client side with Angular they've done so much work on that and like optimized like tons of stuff, but it's just a different thing on the server side. So the point is that don't be surprised if you guys see something, just let me know, and as soon, like sort of the well, on this, I guess tier 2 of the things that tier 1 being the main things I talked about, we're focusing on, and tier 2 some of the services and other things, and just sort of at that same level of tier 2 of the things we're trying to get to is the performance and scalability stuff, like memory profiling, all of that. If somebody does get to that and wants to help us out in doing some work there, let me know, because that would be cool. Oh, and then there's actually one last thing I was going to mention too, is that we have started meetings with all of the people that are interested in building integrations to Angular Universal. So PHP, Java, Go are the main ones. So each of those 3 efforts, there are different groups of people that are prototyping basically right now. So our recommendation, the thing I tell all of them is that if you're working on a greenfield app or you don't have anything already and you don't have a preference, the recommendation is to use the Node backend, just because it'll be the best level of support and probably the best way to go. But there's a lot of people who have existing, you know, huge Java implementations on the server side and whatever, and they just want to integrate with Angular to an Angular Universal. So for them, this would be a good option. So it's just more of a heads up that those efforts are kind of going in parallel by a couple different groups, and I'll maybe make high-level updates here periodically. Okay, so that, let me see if there's anything else major. No, just a couple other feature stuff. No, so nothing else major. Anything you guys have, any questions you guys have, or issues that you wanted to talk about that I haven't talked about? Okay. Next steps, we'll talk in the chat about the tutorial thing, interactive tutorial thing, and I think the most pressing issue is actually the build failures with the latest updates. So I will try to, by the end of the day today, post some updates in the Slack room for that. All right. Okay, guys, have a good one.